So if you haven't heard the news lately, it looks like Ozempic, the blockbuster medication for diabetes and weight management, is causing stomach paralysis. From what I can piece together from the news articles is that individuals took Ozempic and ultimately developed full-blown stomach paralysis even after discontinuing the medication. And in fact, it was so severe for one individual that she had to undergo bariatric gastric sleeve surgery in order to correct the issue. So Ozempic is what we call a GLP-1 receptor agonist. And what that means is it mimics or acts in a very similar fashion to the hormone GLP-1 that our body naturally produces. So when you eat food, GLP-1 gets released from your intestines and it helps to manage your blood sugar levels and helps to create the feeling of fullness to tell you to stop eating. And ultimately, in those ways, it helps to manage our blood sugars and helps us to lose weight. Now, before we go any further, let's talk about what exactly is stomach paralysis. The medical term for this stomach paralysis that they're talking about is called gastroparesis. And gastroparesis is defined as a slowing of gastric emptying, or how quickly food is going from your stomach to your small intestine. You see, when you have food in your stomach, you have a small little sphincter that kind of is the gate between your stomach and that intestine. And that gate, whether it's opening or closing properly, is going to decide how quickly food moves through there. And if for whatever reason that gate is not working very well, that can slow down that process and food and stuff will end up hanging out in your stomach. And if it's not going down, the only way it has to go is back up. And so the side effects or symptoms that you can then experience are things like nausea, vomiting, heartburn, maybe a decrease in appetite, bloating, and that sort of thing. And yes, in very severe situations, your stomach could be paralyzed, so food is not moving through at all, in which case it's going to be a life-threatening and serious condition. So then, what is this connection with Ozempic, and why do we think it might be causing this stomach paralysis? Well, you see, the GLP-1 hormone and ultimately the medications like Ozempic do cause some level of gastroparesis, or some level of slowing how quickly food is moving from that stomach to your small intestine. The reason why the GLP-1 hormone does this naturally is for the process of digestion. So it's slowing down and allowing food to sit in your stomach for a longer period of time. That is going to tell you when to stop eating, but it's also going to allow your stomach to beat up and pulverize the food that you've just eaten so that when it goes to that small intestine, it's more broken down and the nutrients can be better absorbed from your food. And when it comes to the GLP-1 medications, that is what's going to be causing a lot of the side effects people experience initially, the nausea, vomiting, and heartburn, is this slowing of gastric emptying. But both the naturally produced GLP-1 hormone and with the medications like Ozempic, this should be temporary, and ultimately the gastric emptying speed should speed back up to a normal rate. So therefore, it's not out of the realm of possibilities that Ozempic could be causing this stomach paralysis. However, when we look at the clinical trials where tens of thousands of individuals have been given Ozempic, and we look at the adverse effects, we never got any reports of stomach paralysis that is permanent. Yes, we did see the slowing of gastric emptying as we would expect with the GLP-1 medications, but we never got the full-blown and permanent stomach paralysis that required something like a gastric sleeve to manage. Further, when we go out to the real world, where we now have hundreds of thousands of individuals that are on Ozempic, it seems that maybe there is only this handful of people that are now kind of being shown to have this stomach paralysis. So what we can infer from that potentially is that if it is occurring due to Ozempic, it's occurring at a very, very low rate. But the other thing that we need to tease out is, are there other factors that could be happening coincidentally at the same time as the person is taking Ozempic? One of the initial factors that we need to look at is in individuals who have had elevated blood sugars, like really elevated and high blood sugar levels, that ultimately has led to damage of the nerves that control the stomach. And we know that in situations of this, with diabetes, people can develop gastroparesis. And it just so happens that Ozempic is used to treat diabetes. So the big question is, was the gastroparesis already there due to the diabetes and maybe it got worse while they were on the Ozempic, or maybe the Ozempic worsened it itself? Further, we've got to look at what other medications people might be on. We know certain medications such as narcotics like morphine, codeine, and that sort, as well as antidepressant medications and a class of medications called anticholinergics can also cause gastroparesis. And one anticholinergic drug in particular, Gravol, many people may be using to manage their nausea as a side effect that they experienced while being on Ozempic. So again, was it due to the Ozempic, or was it the fact that they're on one of these other medications and the two together had this synergistic effect that ultimately led to the stomach paralysis? Again, we've got a lot of questions to answer. And yes, there are other conditions, like if you had a surgery and they cut something they shouldn't have, as well as other conditions such as hypothyroidism and some autoimmune disorders can also cause gastroparesis. And so the big question is, do we need to be worried about Ozempic? Well, I never say never when it comes to medicine, but if Ozempic or the other GLP-1 medications have this potential risk of causing the stomach paralysis, it is likely very, very, very rare, like less than 1% chance of it occurring. And in reality, we really can't rule out other confounders and variables that might be leading to the gastroparesis and the stomach paralysis developing permanently. So we need to look at and really get more concrete data before we can fully answer that question. Now, if you're currently on Ozempic or you're thinking about going on to Ozempic, continue to follow up with your care team. If you have a long-standing history of diabetes, or you already have gastroparesis, or you're on medications that can lead to it, then definitely some adjustments might need to be made, but ultimately make sure you do the proper screenings with your primary care team to make sure the drug is safe as possible for you. All right, that is it, and that is all when it comes to Ozempic and stomach paralysis. If you got something out of this video, don't forget to give me a like and subscribe to my channel down below. And of course, share this with all of your friends if you think they'll get something out of it as well. And as always, check me out on my other channels at The Official Dr. Dan, and we will see you next week.